Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Kitchen.
Here.
Councilman Morrow.
Here.
Councilman Sefretto.
Here.
Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes, here.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to the Town of Ulster Town Board Workshop for Thursday, October 7th, 2021. I am on the additions or changes to the agenda. There are two items that were changed late this afternoon that were not on the agenda on the town website. They are a new item as the last item under new business. It's a motion to accept the retirement of a long-serving town employee. And it is an executive session for the matter of employee discipline. Does that meet your definition? Yeah. Under open meetings? Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, on our agenda is a public discussion on agenda items. Are there any individuals here tonight who wish to discuss matters that are on our agenda? Yes, no?
Mr. Quigley, may I make a
Please come
comment?
to the podium. State your name and the topic you wish to discuss.
The discussion is on the stormwater drainage project.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me anything about that?
It's to fix your problem.
Okay, so then you're admitting that Central Hudson is close to the problem.
We're not admitting anything, sir. You'd like the problem fixed. The town is going to create a stormwater district and assess the property owners that are impacted.
Okay. So there again, I don't feel that I should have to pay for a problem that someone else is creating.
Sir, that's for another discussion at another time. Tonight is only to design the solution. If we can't get through the design of the solution, we will have no solution.
So I was under the impression that you were voting on whether this was going to go through.
No, what we're voting on is giving a contract to Bernier and Larios to take and do the survey work and design the fix to the problem.
Okay. So the people that would be involved in this,
That's a second public hearing,
okay,
and we have to have a public hearing with the disclosure of the costs and the allocations for everything going forward.
Mr. Quigley,
It's going to be public information, sir.
may I make a
For the
comment,
record,
Mr.
can you state your
Quigley?
name?
yes, Bruce Snow.
Okay. I see you're signed in on Zoom now.
No, I was gonna, but.
Okay.
I decided to come over.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Okay. All right, I guess that was it. I was under the impression that we're voting on this here, and like I said,
Please.
none of us feel that we should be responsible for paying anything for something caused by something.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to make a comment, please. May I make a comment? Mr. Quigley, Kaylin Sanders here.
Okay, we'll take the in-person person first.
Hi, my name is Valerie Harrison. I'd like to speak about the airport and the helicopters.
That is not on the agenda.
Well,
You can, no, please. You will have an opportunity
okay,
at the end of the meeting,
sure,
and you can discuss everything then.
thank you.
All right?
Mr. Quigley, can you recognize?
Any
that you
additional
Yes,
on
Yes.
agenda items only?
yes, I have
Kaylin?
something. Yes, hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mr. Quigley, can you hear me? I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me? I've unmuted myself.
Go ahead.
You can hear me.
Can the audience hear? We got a problem. Galen, please proceed.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So what I would like to say is, first off, thank you, Mr. Quigley, for getting us a meeting with Central Hudson. I will get to the point. I would like to stand by my neighbors on Katrine Lane regarding this study that Larius is doing. I think that until we get to that meeting on November 10th, for those of you that don't know, we have a neighborhood meeting with them to discuss the environmental impacts, all the environmental impacts around the site on November 10th, which Mr. Quigley helped us to get. And I think that having this study and employing this firm to do this study is premature at this point, because we don't know anything about the scope. We don't know which neighbors are going to be impacted within the boundary of this. And it would seem to me, I don't want to begrudge anyone making money and doing a really great work, but it seems very rushed to me. And I think if we can put this off until at least we have that meeting or some other information about who this study impacts and how the intersection of Central Hudson's southwest corner interconnects to the study that this firm would be doing.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Any additional comment on agenda items? Thank you very much. Communications, please.
We're on. First communication about going in chronological order. On September 21st, on our Town of Ulster website, I posted information about this spotted lanternfly, which is an invasive species categorized by the Cornell Cooperative Extension. An email received from the Cornell Cooperative Extension to Supervisor Quigley regarding the invasive species was received October 7th. It reads, "Hi, James, hope you're doing well. Thank you for having Cornell Cooperative Extension at the supervisors meeting the other week. Attached, you'll find a 2-page information sheet on the spotted lanternfly for you to use in your offices. This 2-page information sheet has been posted on the town website and on the town Facebook page. It contains contacts to report sightings, links to available information sources, and information about the lanternfly. You'll also have a spotted lanternfly flyer that can be displayed in public areas for the public developed in a few days. All of this is on, like I said, on those 2 locations. If you would like a presentation, reach out to make arrangements and come and speak to me. Thank you, Christian Maltazaki." Second communication posted on our town website as well and town Facebook page regarding Allen Cares program. On Friday, October 22nd, Allen employees will be cleaning up trash and debris from Devil's Lake in East Kingston. Allen expects a large group of their employees to assist in this effort, but it is open to the public for local volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer, you can contact my office, the town clerk's office, or just simply look on our website and find all of the contact info under news, under our news section. Third email received Monday, September 27th, directed to Supervisor Quigley from Regis town resident Regis Obujiski. Regis was appointed to the Town of Ulster Economic Development Committee and has left letter to the supervisor is thanking him for his consideration in the member on the committee, and he has resigned from the committee. He thanks all for his faith to discharge his official duties energetically and truthfully. He intends to remain unofficially involved in the affairs of the town of Ulster. Thank you, Regis. Another correspondence was posted on the town website today. So many notifications here. And on the Facebook page. And it is in our town, in our lobby. It is a Halloween trunk or treat human services expo. This will be taking place on Wednesday, October 27th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will occur at the Tech City parking lot on Enterprise Drive. This is put on by the Ulster County Office for the Aging, New York Connects, and the Ulster County Department of Social Services. Attendees will park their vehicles, visit each agency and provider for a Halloween treatment to learn more about the services for children, adults, and seniors. This is open to the public. The next communication, I'm going to reiterate the letter I wrote to New York State Department of Transportation with the backing of the town board. This was from June 21st of this year, written to New York State Department of Transportation, David Corrigan, from the town board. On June 17th, 2021, the town of Ulster Town Board voted in favor of the attached resolution. The resolution was passed at that meeting, limiting left turns on Ulster Avenue in front of Hoffman Car Wash. The town board's discussion in favor of this action stems mainly from the increased and steady number of accidents in front of the car wash. Attached to this letter was the resolution and a memorandum from the Ulster Police Department citing the number of accidents at this location over the past 2 years, with a recorded number of 68 accidents. We support any action taken by the New York State Department of Transportation to ensure the safety of motorists. That was June 21st, and as of last night, the Department of Transportation has removed the left-hand turn sign in front of Hoffman Car Wash. This is next to Michael's Diner. It has replaced the sign with a series of yellow stripes indicating no left turn at that location. And Dave Corrigan from DOT stated to the supervisor that next week they will be installing no left-hand turn signs at that location. I have one more letter. Received October 1st. It was emailed to me from a town resident. My name is Vicky Lucarini. I live on Ledge Road in the town of Ulster. I am addressing the town board tonight because I am disappointed in the town board's handling of our supervisor's racial rant, which was reported on the front page of the Daily Freeman on September 4th. During the town board meeting on September 16th, the town board concluded after the investigation that nothing needed to be done, since the subject of Mr. Quigley's rant accepted a public apology, wished not to file a formal complaint, and wished the matter be dropped immediately. While I respect the residents' wishes, this matter has affected other residents of the town. It is understandable that a person of color would be reluctant to file a formal complaint, maybe in fear of revealing their identity and possible repercussions, given the history of past attempts at accountability in the United States. It is for this very reason the town board should have held Mr. Quigley accountable. Instead, they chose to use the victim's reluctance for their action. In my opinion, their action shows an insensitivity to the realities of people of color face each day of their lives in our society. The current events of the past year should have influenced the board to act differently. It is the wish of the person offended by Mr. Quigley's remarks. This incident gave an opportunity for a positive outcome by holding a community meeting in the neighborhood and meetings throughout the town after election season. What was missing in Mr. Soprano and Mr. Van Cleef's report of the investigation is the goals of these meetings. This should not be left to assumptions. They will need to be carefully planned and professionally handled. I'm sure Mr. Quigley is sincere in his apology and regrets his behavior. However, he has admitted to losing his temper ever other times. This should also have been considered during the investigation. In the very least, the board should recommend Mr. Quigley attend sensitivity and anger management training. Because the town board chose not to discipline Mr. Quigley, my confidence in the board's ability to manage difficult decisions has been damaged.
Does that conclude your
Yes,
communications?
yes, it does.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Dan.
This is to the board. I'm speaking for Rocky Secreto and myself as members of Personnel Committee. Rocky Secreto and I have served together as councilmen for almost 2 years and on the Personnel Committee since January. He is registered as a Democrat and I a Republican. With Rocco's leadership, we have committed to work together as councilmen first for the town of Ulster, and we have done that. We have strived to be firm but fair as we dealt with the many personnel issues within this town. We adhere to and work with the town's policies, contracts, and regulations. Along with the two of us being local businessmen, I have 10 years' experience as an original member of the Ulster County Board of Ethics. We took our role very seriously when we were charged with investigating the recent confession of Jim Quigley, our town supervisor, regarding his recent offensive comments. We spent the next 2 weeks seeking any relevant testimony, consulting policy, seeking legal advice, and meeting with the offended resident. We openly and fully reported our findings and recommendations to the board at our last meeting. Our process and report have been commended by many of the leaders of both of our political parties, a significant portion of our residents, and specifically the resident in question. The accusation by some that the resident was potentially intimidated or coerced to not file a complaint by us, but two bald white men, is absurd. It is an insult to our outstanding resident and to the two of us as proven and fair publicly elected officials. We must reiterate that the resident has graciously accepted Mr. Quigley's apology, greatly appreciated our meeting with him, and asked us to commit to getting beyond this issue and to move on to things that will help our community. He asked specifically that this incident should not be allowed to be blown out of proportion and or to be used by groups with agendas to disrupt our community. We are aware and anticipate that there will be public comments tonight criticizing our actions. Rocco and I stand by our commitment to have no further comment on this topic and to make every effort to work together on efforts to help our community improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is past 7:10, which was our stated time for a public hearing on the East Kingston Fire Protection District's fire company budget. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, please accept this opportunity to come to the podium tonight to make any public comments you wish to share with the board about the East Kingston Fire Company's proposed budget for the calendar year 2022. The budget has been posted to the Town of Ulster's website for 2 weeks and continues to be available for public comment if you are not prepared to offer comments tonight. Any individuals here who wish to make a comment?
Motion to close the public hearing.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Proceeding to new business. First item is a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the town's MVP health insurance contract for the period December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022. Any discussion?
I do know that in the past year, there have been some concerns about the coverage from MVP, since it was their first year dealing with the town. And I was very concerned, but I have to say that in the last few months, with the help of our insurance agent, MVP has corrected what I believe is wrong. And then I am in support of this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? The initial rate quote for renewal came in at 17%. And through negotiations and bidding, we were able to have it reduced to 13%. And this policy is the town's primary coverage for current and recent hirees. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kinsler.
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn. Councilman Sakata.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes. The second is a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the health reimbursement agreements. This is for the deductible and the HSA that provides the tax shield for the deductible. May I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At the same time, we have also received a proposal from Guardian Dental and Vision for renewal of the town's dental and vision insurance for 2022. The dental policy is being renewed at a 0 increase, and the vision policy is being renewed at a very minor increase. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And the last item in relation to insurance is a motion to authorize the supervisor to approve the 2022 Town of Ulster renewal for the Lincoln Financial Disability Agreement. This is a renewal with a 0 increase. May I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The town of Ulster has had a wastewater treatment plant engineering study performed on the Ulster wastewater treatment plant that has produced an estimated improvement cost of approximately $6 million. We undertook the first phase to replace the boiler in-house, and we saved approximately $100,000 from the engineer's estimate. The second step in that program of plant upgrades is the replacement of the influence screening equipment. Tonight, I'm asking for a motion to authorize the payment of $118,300 for payment application 2 on contract TU 212 to Duperon Corporation for furnishing influence screening equipment to the Ulster wastewater treatment facility. A second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The town of Ulster was successful in making application to the Environmental Facilities Corporation for a grant to replace the Halcyon Park wastewater tank. Tonight, we have a payment application from the primary contractor, and this is to establish our link to the Environmental Facilities Corporation for reimbursement of the construction costs going forward. So I ask for a motion to authorize the payment of $14,250 for payment application number 1 on contract TU 211, replacement of potable water storage tank for the Halcyon Park Water District.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. In your package is a change order number 1 on the Halcyon Park District tank to change the color of the exterior paint from blue to green. So therefore, I ask for a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the change order number 1, the contract 211, PU 211, the replacement of the potable water storage tank for the Halcyon Park Water District in the amount of $15,000. The exterior paint color change to forest green. We have a motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Gentlemen, as we enter the month of October, we look forward to the holiday at the end of the month called Halloween. And as usual, the town of Ulster takes certain precautions to protect our youth on that night. And in prior years, we have set a 8 p.m. curfew for unaccompanied minors. This year, the holiday falls on Sunday, the 31st. Is there any discussion on the matter? Okay, so I will ask for a motion to establish an 8 p.m. curfew for unaccompanied minors on Sunday, October 31st, 2021, in the town of Ulster. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. In accordance with state law, the 2022 town tentative budget was presented to the town clerk on October 2nd. The budget has been or will be available to the public on the town's website. There is nothing we have to do tonight other than to address the second topic that follows on the agenda, which is to discuss the budget process. We have to adopt this budget according to the memo from the Ulster County Office of Real Property and submit it to them by November 23rd. That is a Monday. So what I'm going to propose for the review process for the town board is that each town board member meet with the department heads individually to discuss their views on the budget that has been distributed as the tentative budget from the budget officer. And we will reconvene at the next town board meeting on October 21st, where we will take recommendations for changes. At that point, we will discuss the budget, consider the adoption of the resolution transitioning the tentative budget to the preliminary budget, vote on a schedule to establish a public hearing for Thursday, November 4th, with an expectation of adopting the budget on November 18th. Does anyone have any comments on the proposed process?
Are there any departments that you did not get input from?
I do not have a Spring Lake Sewer District budget in the package, as we are still trying to figure out the billing system or this billing structure for the sewer charges in Spring Lake. There will be a completed budget for Spring Lake in the package available at the next town board meeting. And I'm waiting for confirmation from the water department on their request.
Question about the town's tax cap. 2% tax cap.
Yes,
State requirement. It was years paid for the town tax cap.
that is, those are two distinctly different topics. The tax cap is 2%. The town did not raise taxes materially in 2021. Therefore, according to the formula, there is a carry forward available from last year's budget to be applied to the tax cap calculation in 2022's budget. At the present time, with the budget that has been presented, the budget is under the tax cap. To my knowledge, that was a limited program to 2 years that was linked to cost efficiency plans that the towns submitted. That program has since ceased. Okay, so no other discussions on the process? May I have a motion to accept the process as presented? Discussion further? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, in the package is a presentation for public display of the resolution that will be considered at the next meeting, adopting the tentative budget as the preliminary budget. Moving on, New York State modified the regulatory rules and the criminal rules in relation to cannabis, allowing for the personal possession, distribution, and public consumption. The town of Ulster, as do all of the municipalities in New York State, have an option that must be exercised by a town law prior to December 31st, 2021. That option reflects the town's ability to prohibit the distribution in a retail establishment or prohibit the public consumption in a cannabis lounge, or both, or do nothing. And I'm asking that a public hearing be set for October 21st, 2021 at 7:10 to seek input from the public in the town of Ulster to provide guidance to the town board in our obligations to consider these options. So may I have a motion setting the public hearing? Any discussion?
Question, did we get materials presented to us that if we were to say no, we can reconsider that? If we say yes, we can't reconsider that.
Yes is an irrevocable decision.
Yes, it's irrevocable.
Irrevocable. No can be changed at a future point in time. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Clerk, would you please arrange for the public dissemination of the notice for the public hearing? Thank you. Gentlemen, in your package is a proposal that was provided at the last minute for the engineering and design of the stormwater conveyance system for Katrine Lane. We heard comments from Ms. Sanders during the public comment session. While I respect her concern about the Central Hudson project and its effect on the stormwater drainage system, we have residents whose houses have been threatened with erosion. In addition, I wish Ms. Pavey was here. She would be very articulate in explaining that this has been an ongoing problem for well over 12 years. And that this problem predates any development by Central Hudson on the northern property. It was related to the initial development of that area by Myron Lumber in 1967. So, gentlemen, in your package, we have a proposal from Bernier and Larios. We have the engineering professional services agreement. I'm asking for a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign said agreement so that we can commence the survey work and the engineering design work to address this problem finally. Roll call vote, please.
I vote yes, and I'd just like to say it's long overdue. This should have happened years ago. It'd be great to find out. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Berard, Chief Berardi. Can you describe briefly what an intelligence summit involves? Thank you. We have a motion to authorize Mr. Chief Rorty. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, in your package is a memorandum of agreement by and between the town of Ulster and the town of Ulster PDA or PDA Association, Inc. It memorializes a labor contract covering the term of January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2022. It was bargained between the union and representatives of the town. It has been ratified in a 31-0 vote by the PDA and now comes before the board of the town of Ulster for ratification. I ask for a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the memorandum of agreement.
So moved.
Any discussion? Please let the record reflect that Mr. Secreto, because of the family relationship, will be abstaining from the vote. May I have a roll, please?
I just want to commend the Personnel Committee and the Police Department, the supervisor for an outstanding job. This is one of the first times that we've had a contract with anybody come through this quickly and this easily and professionally. I just wanted to commend everybody. Thank you.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Kitchen? Councilman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Secretaro?
Yes.
Supervisor Witt?
Yes, thank you. Gentlemen, in your package is a resolution memorializing the town of Ulster's support memorializing the town of Ulster's support for the Catskill Mountain Railroad to extend its trackage rights from Stony Hollow in the town of Ulster to Basin Road in the town of Woodstock. Several years ago, Route 28A was paved over by Ulster County, and the train cannot go past that point. The railroad is in negotiations with the county executive's office and the legislature over the extension of this right-of-way and use agreement. And I just wish that the town of Ulster should go on the record as supporting this extension.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussion amongst the board? Can I have a roll call vote, please? Get him when he comes back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. We have a resolution in front of us at the recommendation of the town attorney granting site plan extension for the Lincoln Park Bridge Support Center, Myron Lane and Frank Satile Boulevard, Kingston, New York, section block and lot number 48.012-1-20, 48.016-1-1, and 48.16-1-2.21. The reason for the site plan is a delay in engineering related to the connection of Minds Day.
Okay. Councilman Kitchen,
Yes.
Councilman Morrow,
Yes.
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek,
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. Next item on our agenda is discussion on the re-levy of delinquent water bills on the 2022 taxes. Due to COVID-19, the governor instituted an executive order that had a state of emergency. Legislature and the Public Service Commission implemented laws and regulations related to utilities and forbearance on unpaid utilities. Town of Ulster is a utility in the fact that we provide water and sewer services to our residents. And usually when it comes down to this point in the year, the unpaid water bills and the unpaid sewer bills are re-levied onto the tax bill. Gentlemen, the current regulations would require the town to provide public notice last week, given our schedule for re-levy. And therefore makes it it's a 30-day notice required by the Public Service Commission, where the supplier is to advise their customers of their payment options and other matters related to forbearance and collection. Given that we have passed the deadline and that we have IT support issues in relating to the administration of the collection of those receivables, I just wanted to present to you tonight the concept that we carry the receivables to this point in time in 2022 and re-levy the 2021, 2022 receivables on the 2023 tax. So that would require a vote by the town board to modify a longstanding policy. So may I have a motion to defer the re-levy of unpaid water and sewer bills in 2022 relating to unpaid bills as of November 5th, 2021.
Beyond the January.
They will not be on the January 2022 tax bill. They will be put on the January 2023 tax bill.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is a discussion on the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency study for the siting of a solid waste landfill in Ulster County. Recent publicity indicates that the RRA is undertaking a site selection process, a mapping process, so to speak, that is spending $8,000 in RRA funds, public resources, to identify the possible sites for a solid waste landfill in Ulster County. The reason for bringing this matter to the Town of Ulster Board is for a discussion by the Town of Ulster Town Board to take a position on whether we would encourage or discourage the siting of a landfill in the Town of Ulster. So I open the floor for discussion.
I'd like to make it clear that we really don't want a landfill in the town of Ulster.
I'll make it clear, I'm tired of living in East Kingston. I see some East Kingston residents right now. We still get the smell. We don't need more out there. I hope.
You would recommend no.
Yep.
And I would recommend no, because this town has been handling the garbage for this county for as long as I can remember. And I think it's time for an improved and better solution, which does not include dumping on the town of Ulster.
Not only that, but the town of Ulster tends to be one of the low-lying towns, and it's very, very wet in this town. We have the Hudson River, we have all the various streams, we have the Esopus Creek. The ground is saturated in much of the town, and the last thing we need is a landfill. seeping into the water.
I agree with my fellow councilman. I also echo their same comments.
I will take a different tact on the matter. The same tact that we did when we analyzed whether the town of Ulster would support the siting of a fossil fuel generating plant within the town. We took an assessment of the available parcels throughout the town and looked at the environmental impacts on the neighborhoods. And let's start with the south part of the town in Eddyville. Eddyville, formerly the terminus of the D&H Canal and the industrial hub of the town of Ulster at one time, was under threat from the development of a limestone mine. Not once, but twice. The town board fought it back and the residents were very happy about our success in stopping the mine. When the residents of Eddyville came to us and said, do something about Buck's junkyard, we closed them. When they said to take and do something about the boats in storage at the former marina owned by Eddyville Corporation, we engaged in that activity and now are in state Supreme Court in a legal action with the owner on a cleanup. So obvious, Eddyville's not a candidate. You move around the south part of the town. You go to Route 32 and the old quarry. That isn't an appropriate site because it's less than 1,000 feet from $500,000 and $1 million houses over on over in the development adjacent to the thruway by Hillside Acres. That's not appropriate. We go to Catskill Avenue when we look at Spring Lake. We're not going to fill in Spring Lake with garbage, so that's not an appropriate neighborhood. So you move around along the Esopus, which is the low-lying area. And based upon the Foster Wheeler study from 1959, there are aquifers along the Esopus and the Roundout, for that fact, which could be contaminated. So therefore, that is eliminated. We're not going to allow a garbage dump at Tech City. We're not like we weren't going to allow a power plant back in the early part of the 2000s. That doesn't work. We go to East Kingston. We just had one of the quarries purchased by the Scenic Hudson Group to turn it over to the state for a state park. And you look at the other former clay pits along the Hudson River, they are inappropriate because of the proximity to the Hudson River. The residents in the community don't deserve it, and the residents on the opposite side of the river don't deserve it. When you look around the town, there are no locations. So therefore, I would agree with my fellow board members. It's time we stop getting dumped on and protect what we have. So gentlemen, I would ask for a motion to authorize the town attorney to prepare a resolution memorializing the town of Ulster's opposition to the siting of a municipal landfill by Ulster County RRA or any other party in the town of Ulster.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kitchen. Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Secreto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. We will bring that resolution back for the next meeting and adopt the resolution at that point in time. The next and final item under new business is a motion to accept the retirement of Richard Watson, a longtime town employee from the town of Ulster Sewer Department.
Second.
Any discussion?
I want to thank him for his 35 plus years of working down there for his town of Boston. Thanks.
For the record, Mr. Watson is the only employee who accepted the town of Ulster's early retirement offer. So thank you, Rich, for your service to the town. Moving on to old business. The first item and the second item under old business relates to the phone system. Mr. Van Cleek and Chief Berardi.
Chief Berardi and Suzanne Reevy and Peggy, your secretary, we worked together and reviewed the needs of the town for a town-wide phone system. in our study, we found out that you can't call the town hall and have your phone call transferred. That we are giving instructions, what the phone number is for the highway department, what the phone number is for the building department, what the phone number is for the police department. We can't even transfer a call downstairs to the police department. So in reviewing that, we wanted to get the most updated phone system possible. We went out to bid. We had 3 bidders. One got knocked out immediately because they didn't come in with the ability to handle the needs we had. The other one was price competitive to a point, but then had the inability to interface with the needs specifically for the police department. So what we came to is 2 proposals. One is with access networks through the wire, and that is to provide a full phone system that will encompass every town office that will be interconnected. So there'll be one, you can call one phone number and speak to anyone in the town. So the details are attached. This is already in the budget for this year, so it's not going to affect any going forward expenses, but it will lower the cost of the monthly phone bill because we would be going to a VoIP
Yes.
system rather than the traditional copper wire. In conjunction, we are aware that Verizon is abandoning the traditional copper wire. So this installation will be the most up-to-date on the day it's installed. No doubt 2 days later, something else will come out. But on that day, it will be the most up-to-date phone system that's installed.
I'll make the motion.
Jim, what would the projected savings on this? Do you have an idea?
I'll second the motion.
Hold on a second.
Got it.
You came to that.
Yeah, and it was 8,000?
It was over 10,000 per year in monthly cost savings. Yeah.
Good job.
So
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So on the roll call vote on the contract for the new phone system?
Councilman Kitchen.
Yes.
Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Secreto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleef.
yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes.
The second matter related, this involves a very specific need for the police department.
The system downstairs that's required to record the radio transmissions and the phone calls is outdated and unable to connect to any other system. We had to go out and look for a new system. The system that we found will easily interconnect with not only the system we've just approved, but is the most up-to-date and very flexible system for connectivity. Chief, it was 4 radios it records at a time?
4 phone lines and 2 radio.
So that is regular recording. It's back to our other system. Our first system enables recording of any phone call, but this would be the required for the police department for monitoring. Correct?
Well, we've been recording phone calls and radio transmission here ever since obviously Discovery came into effect. The new Discovery law that was initiated through the state. It's becoming paramount. You've got to have that readily available. It's a safeguard for officers as well as community, shows transparency. Recorded and disseminated back for
Similar to body cameras and car cameras and such, for security reasons. So that's why we made this recommendation. So it'll bring us up to current standards.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Kitchen.
Yes.
Councilman Morrow.
Yes.
Councilman Secreto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes, thank you. And the last item on our agenda,
Personnel, this comes from our judges in the courts. Looking for a hire of a clerk. Employee's name is Taylor Crispino. Title will be clerk. Department would be court and coming out of the general fund. Would be part-time, non-competitive. It's a non-union position. No health insurance. Wage would be $13.50 an hour. Start date would be 10/8/2021. This is requested by Judge Kessick. Taylor was hired as a temp clerk for court for a 30-day period. She is now being retained as a part-time clerk at the same rate of pay, $13.50, 20 hours a week, no benefits. I will abstain from voting on this as this is irrelevant, and I will pass it on to the rest of the board.
For the record, Mr. Secretary, on behalf of the town.
So moved.
It goes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our scheduled agenda tonight. This is the point in the meeting where we're going to open the podium to any topic that any individual wishes to address the board on. I know there's plenty of people here that wants to discuss the town supervisor's behavior. So I would ask that you allow the other residents that have other topics to speak about to go first. Are there any? Sorry? Oh, I thought you raised your hand.
What about the woman from?
There was an individual that came early in the meeting to talk about the airport. Is she still here? Please,
Yeah.
your turn. For the record, your name and address?
My name and address is Valerie Harris, and I'm on the wrong page, wait a minute. Valerie Harris, and it's 1234 Flatbush Road, Kingston, New York.
Which
It's-
in relation to the airport would be where?
It's right, you know where the deli is?
Yes,
It's right across the street, kind of up the hill.
okay.
So, on September 9th, I heard the most horrible loud noise that I think I've ever heard. It sounded like a UFO was gonna land on my house. I swear. My brick house literally shook to the foundation from the vibration. I ran outside and I saw the helicopter. The next day, I called somebody at the town of Ulster and they explained that a helipad had been built and was being used at the airport by an ex-CEO of Google, a very rich man. I said, I didn't know that. Well, we had it on Facebook and it was on our website, and that's all we're required to do. Well, it certainly isn't enough. I did go on the town website, and I had read that at one point there was a change in the water department. I'm not quite sure, but the point is the town managed to send everyone a notice about that. I feel like certainly they should have sent letters out about this helicopter at the airport. I didn't know anything about it. A friend of mine said to me, and then the helicopter arrived. Anyway, I mean, I really feel it's almost as important. I know everybody needs water, but they also need to have value in their home. And that's what this affects. It affects the value of everyone's home. And never mind your sanity. Mr. Dean was kind enough to share his letter to the board with me, and that contained a lot of information that actually I wasn't even aware about. It was pretty interesting, a lot of technical information. What I'm aware of is the horrible noise, and worse, that the fact it's going to impact the value of my home and everybody else's in the area. I don't feel just because you're rich, you have the right to do whatever you want, no matter how negatively it impacts other people. I spoke to a friend of mine today who lives in Woodstock, and I told her about the helicopters. She said, well, everybody should get together and let them know that, you know, this is a big problem. And that's what happened here. We had somebody come, a very rich person, and he had a helicopter and he would take off and land on his own property. Well, everybody got together and they made the town board get rid of it, and they did. They ended it. I know there was a 30-day waiting period, or a period where you could come and complain, but again, as I said, I didn't know. The thing is, people feel that there's really no point in doing that. They said, you know, what is the point? Nothing's going to change. I saw my neighbors outside and I said, so how do you like this helicopter noise that's going on here? Wow, they were not happy. And they said, no, they didn't like it one bit. after they stopped swearing. I told them there was going to be a meeting tonight and that they should come, or at least call or write a letter and let people know that how unhappy you are. What's the point? They're not going to change their minds. They've made up their minds. Nothing's going to happen. We're not going. So I just don't understand why this is going to be allowed when it benefits no one except the rich person. And I will bet you that given time, this will only get worse. When I moved here, it was just those small planes. I didn't like those either, but believe me, they're much better than this helicopter thing. I love the house that I bought. It took me 2 years to find it, and I put money into it. I invested my money in it because I knew it would have value. It's in a nice location. It's a brick house, and I fixed it up really nice. Well, when it comes time to sell it, I wonder what I'll be able to get. I have an idea. Maybe that rich guy will give me the difference of what I could have gotten and what I'll have to end up with now. I am not happy, obviously. You know, I haven't said the Pledge of Allegiance for a very long time. It felt good. And I especially like the last line, justice for all. Thank you.
Ma'am, do you have a contact? First of all, those are your comments. Can you submit them to the town clerk in
I
writing?
certainly will.
Is your contact information with a phone number on your comments?
No, but I can put it on there.
Please,
Sure.
and leave them with Ms. Reader.
Thank you.
Mr.
Leave it-
Dean?
You want me to leave it now with her?
Yes,
I
please.
don't think she can read it.
Mr. Dean,
Can I
I
email
presume
it
you're
to
here
you?
for the
Sure,
airport
yeah.
also?
I can write my email on
Yeah.
it. There you go.
Thank you. I will email it to you after I fix it.
Okay.
I'm Stuart Dean and I live at 300 Ulster Landing Road. If you draw a line out the runway, like here, or in the color pictures back at the end, and draw that line out over the river, that line passes 100 feet from my house. Now, when the helicopters go over, they can drift one way or the other off that line. But when they go directly over the house, the loudest, I have a sound meter, which tells me in decibels how loud Okay, you've got it. If you want any explanations, I'd be happy to talk to you. Okay? Yes,
Anyone from the airport contacted?
no. No, and I've left messages like at 7:30 at night asking them what the hell is going on. Okay.
That's why I've asked you for your telephone number. I just sent an email to,
Mr. Dean, does anybody from the town board come to your house and listen to it?
Well, Rocco must, and I've talked to him. I mean, I came here, on the first discussion meeting, and I stood here and I said my piece, and Supervisor Quigley asked me to send it in writing, and I did about 10 days before the time when you guys voted. And I asked for scheduling and noise restrictions. When I got here, after the meeting, which I should have attended but didn't, I found out that it didn't seem like the permit you issued and the restrictions you put on it had noise and schedule restrictions. It just was that it shouldn't be commercial. Anyway, questions?
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Just a comment. I'm a master flight instructor and
Okay.
formally
FAA safety council.
FAA safety council here, lots of valley here and
Been involved with the
I've been involved with the
airport.
airport and
many
operations for many,
I can
many
only
years.
say
I can only
Much
say
of what
much of what you're speaking about
is
here
inaccurate.
is inaccurate.
And the same
How
with
is
this
it
FAA.
inaccurate?
I will be
glad to sit down with you personally and describe exactly how it's inaccurate. But-
What about them circling for a half hour?
That's, has nothing to do with the permit issued by the town or the request of the airport. And this whole process started long before the current owner bought the airport. But the building was built before he bought the airport, it was already sitting there. And this is a public airport of which the town has no control over what type of aircraft flies into it or when they fly into it. The town doesn't have the authority to change that. That's FAA.
Right.
And there could be 1,000 helicopters a day flying to the airport because it's a public airport. And it can have nothing to do with the current owner of the airport or the heliport that's there.
The heliport was done without a building permit. Is that not so?
No, they had a
They had a
building permit.
What was illegal about it? That's what the hearing was.
They had a building permit for a pole barn. They failed to disclose the actual use of the building.
This is the prior owner before the current owner bought the airport.
This happened.
And this was just, all this is, this heliport is a parking area for 5 or 6 helicopters in the back. Off the old airport site, to get them away from the airplane. To make the airport a little bit safer.
Mr. Morrow, if I may, Mr. Dean. 2 weeks ago, I had a visit from the attorneys and the airport people. They asked me what they could do about community relations. I raised these issues to them. I asked them to contact you. Obviously, that's why I asked you. They haven't. I asked them to contact several other people down in the vicinity of the airport. I was down there today visiting them and asking them the same question. They didn't contact them either. I just sent an email to the person who came and visited me.
And said WTF. Okay? I have to
I
get back
like
to
your
you.
rant.
Let's move on.
And I'll tell you one other thing. I live at the opposite end of the runway
Yes.
and I have the same concerns that you have and this young lady back here has. And believe me, it rattles my house. And I'm not crazy about it either. And
Okay, all I'm
No,
saying is,
when they visited,
so I understand.
gave them several requests. None of them have been satisfied as of right now.
okay,
You referenced that map that they had up with the little arrows. and
yeah,
that.
right,
I said, I need a big map.
yeah,
I need to know where those arrows go and whose house those arrows go over.
right, yeah.
And I also have spoken to somebody who has familiarity, like Mr. Morrow does, with FAA operations and said, if necessary, can the town request a change in the landing pattern? But until I know what the landing pattern is and who it affects, I'm not going to make a request.
Right.
So the
Interesting.
evidence gathering
Yes.
stage to try to come up with a solution. We heard you. We have tried to address it. I can't help it that they didn't call you, but I will follow up tomorrow with a phone call, and I will personally call you by Tuesday.
I appreciate that.
And be
Well, the one-
assured, everybody on this podium hears you, both of you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And we understand your concerns
And,
and
and
We can do our best to
my
fix it.
point about, I understand that this is a public airport. It was built with taxpayer, it was, I remember when it was a roller coaster. You looked down at it, it looked like a Coney Island ride. But this, the building permit gives us leverage to try and get something out of it, even though there, as a federal, by FAA regs, they can do just about anything. And in terms of people flying in, people flying out, and how much the traffic is. But this gives us leverage to try and get some compliance.
all right, well, thank you, sir.
And thank you. I'm just writing my phone number.
Three 4815.
797,
Oh, you want to give me your cell phone?
yes,
Okay.
797.
1897.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you all. Thankless job. It's a lot of work. And you sometimes get caught in the middle of a food fight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other individuals here tonight who have topics other than the supervisor? Okay, Mr. Spanier, I see you're ready to leap out of your seat. You can
Also-
have,
Laura too. when you-
I understand. Laura.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Spanier.
Pretty common pool.
No. I am here on the issue of Supervisor Quigley's racist rant and the lack of an appropriate response by the councilman charged with investigating the incident. The rant is shocking, but not surprising. Mr. Quigley clearly knew he had crossed a dangerous line, and he offered to resign if the board decided that he should. He chose his fellow board members to be the judges of his case rather than an objective and qualified panel. The lack of accountability is no surprise either, but it is not too late to remedy that. The Black Native decision to not pursue the matter further is not the end of the issue. The insult directed at the Black community is also an insult to the entire community, at least those of us who see it as our obligation and privilege to stand with our neighbors. If any learning or healing or progress is to come from this ugly incident, it has to be addressed by individuals who have some knowledge of and background in such matters. Asking two of the councilmen to deal with this matter, something to just put behind us, it only serves to deepen damage. They are clearly out of their depth on this and should have recused themselves. They should have refused to sit in judgment on this issue. They recommended to the full board that there be no consequences, and all four voted that way. And Mr. Quigley, I would insist that the town's ethics committee would be the appropriate place to start, but I've been told that its members are appointed by Mr. Quigley, who meets anyway, in which case it would be meaningless to bring them in. Now, 4 council members have refused to take appropriate action, either to remove or at least suspend the supervisor while performing his duties until this matter can be fairly resolved. A panel of qualified persons, including persons of color, should be convened to take up the matter. In the meantime, the supervisor should step down and make a genuine effort to reform his behavior. I would suggest anger management and racial sensitivity training would be a good place to start. For better or worse, Mr. Quigley is the face of our town to both residents and visitors. The seriousness of the charge against our supervisor is now fully known. The problem now is what will be done to address it in a way that is productive and consequential. The worst possible result would be to allow the whitewash conducted by the board to stand. It only deepens the wound and distrust in the community.
Mrs. Spanier, are you next?
I'd like to respond to your opening communication with us about your involvement. And that I appreciate that you have been part of the committee of ethics. I did not know that. That's important information. And I agree with you that dealing with a brand that we have been trying to deal with that is destructive to our town and to individuals, it does make sense to. I also don't think it makes sense to use racial bias towards you folks either. It doesn't make any sense. I am going to just make a point. You said that I want to be clear on. I don't have an agenda. And so I don't want what I'm saying to be discounted and being put into some category of somebody who has an agenda. I'm an individual. I live in a wonderful place. And I have respect and regard for you people who serve the community. I cannot imagine a harder job. And I've worked you in my life, and I can't imagine being up to what you folks are doing. So I have gratitude, and I don't feel good about having an issue with how this event in our community has been dealt with. I wrote something, and it's interesting. It has to do with the Pledge of Allegiance, which Supervisor Quigley leads us in, and I did also focus on liberty and justice for all. I feel that these words are a kind of code of ethics, and I feel that Mr. Quigley, unfortunately, has violated that and engaged when he was engaged in town business, and the neighbor had to have been diminished. The town was shamed. The community, including myself, have had a trust and an elected official betrayed. I'm sorry for that. A conflict of interest, as far as I'm concerned, was proposed by advisor asking the board to be the people to look at. In my mind, my understanding of what an ethics committee might do is it might bring a broader informed about codes of ethics, input to a very complicated, important events that we are experiencing in our town as well as in our country. I feel that then I am cheated by receiving an unbiased review. Town Ethics Committee, I feel, must be formed. I think it needs to be as best as is possible, composed without a conflicted investment like the board has, as I see it. I believe that ethics standards can be a sliding scale, and the low ethics bar that has been used in this case, I feel, will sadly be a low bar for the future of our town if we have to deal with other ethics problems with other employees. The standard, our supervisor. I don't believe that indulging or enabling abuse and bias serves any. I think we all want to live in a town where we're respected and we feel safe and we feel represented. We elect. So I would like to see an ethics committee in my perfect world that is not appointed in this case by the supervisor or the board, but that it includes a woman. I would like to see a woman around here in on some of these decisions and this work. I also would think in this particular case, it would be very necessary to have a person of color. How can we do this? How can we stand here and try to deal with figuring out racial bias without the input of somebody who is a person of color? It doesn't make any sense. I feel personally that Mr. Quigley should be held accountable, at least with anger management work and bias awareness work. And I would even say, I think that when people are elected to our town at this point in time, they should all be open to a basic bias awareness training. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who's next here? We will get to Laura when we finish residents in attendance. Are there any other individuals here to speak?
Wait, I don't want to speak to you guys. Just want you guys to understand. So sorry for these guys because they picked that to be there. They decided to be there. Don't feel sorry for them. That's what they wanted to do. Okay.
Okay, would you let Laura in?
She's on.
She's got to turn herself off of mute.
I've done that. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you. I'm commenting tonight on the recent admitted racist rant by Supervisor Quigley against one of our town of Ulster neighbors and the lack of disciplinary action by the town board. As you are all aware, townofulstercitizens.org's petition has gathered 69 signatures so far. Clearly, there are other residents who are concerned about this as well. What is most concerning about the town board's decision to not impose any consequences for Supervisor Quigley is that this sets a major precedent for any future racial incidents that may occur by any other town employee, including our police force. Other town employees now expect that they can make racial comments and not receive any discipline. I truly hope that none of our employees would use that kind of language, but giving the town supervisor a free pass sets the bar very low for our town. Further, we, the citizens, can see that Supervisor Quigley orchestrated how this would all go down. He got word that his racist rant was overheard by the aggrieved party. He got in front of it by admitting he did it and making an apology publicly. He appointed 2 town councilmen to investigate, not including any unelected people to assist and to allow them to have a voice in the investigation. We all saw what the outcome was going to be. and how magnanimous that he offered up that he would resign if Councilman Secreto and Van Cleek determined it was warranted. And as expected, it was determined there would be no consequences. As for the consequences, Mr. Quigley should have been made to take an anger management class and diversity classes, and afterwards to report to the town board on what he learned at a public meeting. Don't the people of color who live here or who come to the town of Ulster to shop or work at least deserve that? Don't they deserve to know that the person who holds the highest office in our town has learned from this? Wouldn't it be good for our town if the residents could see that our town supervisor learned something from this ugly episode? Thank you, and I will submit these comments via email to the town clerk.